as you know, I've been just going crazy about bridal roses lately. I feel very sure that we should be able to make our own bouquets out of paper. It's more sustainable and it creates an heirloom that we can keep for our whole lives. And I dyed this paper, and honestly, it's almost too pretty to cut. I think it looks like a bouquet of roses already. I just love them. And I've been looking at what are considered to be white roses, but it seems to me, and to other people as well, that white roses are a bit of a misnomer. That there are indeed a few roses that are pure white, but often we have white roses that have really amazing undertones of toffee or green or coffee or milk or like a little bit of pink or sand. And so I've dyed these papers, and I'm going to make a tutorial about how to do this with my strip rose in mind. So they have ombre in two ways. They have an ombre horizontally. So look, we've got pink here and kind of a coffee colored, and actually that is from coffee there, but sort of a rose and an old rose look. And then they have an ombre lengthwise, because as you can see, there's quite a bit of contrast there. And when you use this kind of paper to make a strip rose, what you get are these breathtaking kinds of roses. I think it works so well. So keep me company. I'm going to make a strip rose right now, and you'll see what you think. So I decided to make this color, which is different than the other two roses that I've experimented with. And the first thing to do is get oriented with which is going to be the inner side of the petal and which is going to be the outer side of the rose. So it makes sense to me to put this in the center of the rose. So these will be the smaller inner petals, and this section is going to be the outer one. So the first thing that I'm going to do is make a fold. And by the way, if this process of making a rose interests you, I have a full playlist with foundational steps and then all the steps in making this rose. If you enjoy this technique and you practice at it, you'll be able to make a rose like this in well under an hour. And you're going to see how long it takes me to make, because we're going to do this in real time. Oh my goodness. You hear that? Ambulance is gracious. All right. So the first thing that we do is we make that fold, and then I'm going to make some wedges. And if you haven't seen my video series on how to make this rose, what I'm doing now is going to be kind of bonkers. But trust me, it works like a charm. And there's some really good reasons for it that I'm not going to bore you with right now. Okay, now we're going to make some petals that increase in size. Okay. So I've made what I call a concentric fold. And oops, I'm about to cut it the wrong way. Sorry about that. All right, so we're gonna make a rose petal. I'm just going by feel. It's better if you can watch this process, but I think I did all right. Let's have a look at our concentric folds here. Okay, so we've got small, medium, large for the concentric folds, and actually I think these are very large. So I'm gonna decrease the size of this one, kind of around the top, also going to decrease the size of this one. So these are the size of the petals that we want at the end, not necessarily in the middle. And that's okay. If you make a mistake, you just fix it. Okay, let's do that again. And we'll make these larger petals that go on the outside of the rose. They aren't going to have quite as much as the guard petals did, personality as the guard petals did in the real example that I showed you, but they are going to have some personality, which is great for exterior petals. All right, I'm just gonna round this off a little bit. I'll round that off a little bit. Okay, these are nice. And I'm gonna do a little detail cutting. I'm gonna stretch this one. All right, it's gotta come forward to me. And I'm gonna give this a big split. And that'll make it seem even more like a rose. And then I think, since it's a guard petal, I'm going to give it a little bit of an irregular petal. Yeah, there we go. And this, I'm going to give a notch because that'll help it hold its shaping. I'm going to give this a notch, and I'm going to give it a notch sort of off center, and that's quite all right. And then I'm going to give these three what I call a pout, and we can batch cut a pout. We're going to fold them together and then make a little C that ends at the tip there. And then it gives us a very typical rose pattern. All right, let's cut the bottom. Okay, so these I cut this way. The first thing that we're gonna do is cut some waves. And those don't go down very deep at all. And then I'm gonna make some slightly wider and deeper waves. So these folds for the waves, and then also for the waves that I'm doing now, I am making a fan fold. Nice. Now I'm gonna make some petals, and I want them to be the same size. Hey, you know what? I want them to increase in size. So, sorry, I'm just gonna flop this over and over. I'm gonna use the side as a guide, and then I'm gonna cut down. So that was concentric folding. Oh, and you know what? I have cut too deep. Damn, it would be better, pardon me, pardon my French, everybody. It would be better if those didn't go quite as far down as they are. You know what? I'm gonna leave this one just like that. We'll see what happens. It would be better if those were attached more, but we'll see how this goes. Hopefully it'll be good enough to share with you. And pardon the French, as they say. All right, so again, we're gonna have some petals with some concentric circles, or concentrically sized petals. Let's see. Well, actually, you know what? Yeah, here we go. It's just it's not quite the right length, but that's okay, I've got it now. All right, so I'll use the top as a guide, get all the way down to the bottom. And by the bottom, I mean that horizontal fold that runs the whole length of the petals. All right, so let's see if even if I mess that cut up, we'll be able to make a lovely rose. All right, so let's go over again the direction of all the folds. These are gonna fold toward me, and then these are gonna fold toward me. And when you're new making this kind of a rose, it's a good idea to have a piece of tape that reminds you which direction to fold in. Okay, I was having trouble finding my wire, but I've got it now. All right, we're gonna make a good fold here. Not a fold, rather, a roll. We're gonna make another roll and then expand it. Make a roll and expand it. Roll and expand it. Okay, ooh, looks like this was meant to have a cut in here. So we'll take care of that. Not sure why that happened, but that's all right. Make a roll and expand. Make a roll and expand. And the thing about this rose that saves us so much time is that because we only see the tips of the petal, we are, in this section of the rose, we are only going to shape the tips of the petal. All right, we've come across a pouty petal, and we're going to shape it like that. Here's another pouty petal, so we're going to make an angled roll. And I think I'll make a little bit of a score there. All right, got an angled petal. But we're getting close to the end, which means the petals are going to be starting to come out. So I'm going to make a really big fold here. And that's going to be how these other ones are too. So these petals are very large. And you know what? I think that's going to be great. I can't wait to see what happens. This one, I'm going to roll with my orange stick, give it a little bit more of a roll. And I love how this looks up here. I'm going to wrinkle it up a bit. And then I'm only going to relax it somewhat. And then I'm going to roll this one. Actually, I'm just going to roll this one down just so it kind of flaps over. And that's a pretty typical, usual way for a rose. Kind of nice that it's got this friend here who can stay with it. I could smooth this edge, but I really like that bit of brown. So let's see how that goes. Oh, I didn't do any detailing here. Let's make these edges a bit irregular. So we kind of ruffle them up and smush them. And then we'll make a couple C cuts. Look at that. Actually, I just made one C cut. That looks great. I'm gonna fold this down, give it some character, and there is no need to cup these petals, which is just gonna blow your mind if you're used to making regular roses, which we put a lot of effort into cupping them. All right, so these are the petals where I'm feeling very regretful that I cut them down too deeply. Just for the way the rose is coming together, it would have been so much better if they had been cut to about here. But we'll just see what happens. And actually, pardon me, I'm gonna yank my glue up. I think I'm gonna put some glue up to that point to kind of encourage them to stick with the other petals and inhibit them from spreading too much. All right, so I'm making like a half angled fold. And then starting from here, we're gonna do a full angled fold. And I'm gonna score this, and I think I'll score that. All right, and it's not really the time to glue these together, but maybe if I do, the shape will be better later. So this is normally one of the final things I do before I roll it up. That's okay, it's all right to make a mistake. Let's see what happens. Okay. All right. So since we're getting to this point, I think angled rolls are a good idea. And then the rest of this rose, it's just going to put itself together. You won't believe it. Okay, there's my guy walking through again. Can you hear the cardinal outside? Pretty fun. That's what happens when you work on the porch. Okay, so I've been doing my angled rolls. I think they're coming together nicely. I'll give it another score. And now we're just gonna flare, I think. Here we've got a little bit of a extra bit. We wanna shape differently. You know what, maybe since this is just sort of a great amount of flare, I want to differentiate between the two, so I'll roll those. But now I'm just going to flare. Okay. Now, if you haven't seen this, you're going to be surprised. So, but I can't wait to see how this rose turns out. So folks, I've been married for a while, and this year actually I'm having a really big anniversary. So maybe that's why I've been getting preoccupied with wedding roses. I don't know, they just are calling me. And I had a really, really great wedding. It was about 100 years ago, it seems like. But the one thing that I did not like about my wedding, oh, almost time, not quite time. The one thing I didn't like about my wedding, honestly, was my bouquet. I was so young when I got married. We really left most of the wedding decisions to my parents, who were very generously paying for it, and the proprietors of the venue, who were family friends. Mostly we didn't want to cause anybody undue expense because we were so young. We didn't really have any money for a wedding. Okay, so that fold is going to disappear to about nothing, kind of at this point. I like to have about 3 sets of petals before the rose is finished, and the fold increases in height as we get toward the beginning. And now it's time for me to get the wire ready. So yeah, we didn't really want to make any trouble or want to make any expense, and my parents were so nice about paying for it. Okay, sometimes I start off and I can't remember which way it's supposed to go, but I appear to have gotten it. But I need to put some glue on this side. Sometimes I wind it up this way, sometimes I wind it with the other side on the outside, and it doesn't seem to make a difference. I have in mind that this rose is going to be kind of fluffy. I would love that. Okay, this I want to bring down. Ooh, it's looking good. Sorry, it's hard to concentrate on rolling and talking at the same time. So I was telling you about my wedding and that I really didn't like my bouquet. So the proprietors at the venue asked me what I wanted, and I knew about flowers at that point, but I wasn't hugely passionate about flowers like I am right now. And I said, oh, it doesn't really matter. I'd love to have some things in it that smell good, like rosemary. And so what I got, and then the proprietor said, okay, we'll go to the flower market that morning and just get whatever looks like it's in good shape and will be pretty for you. So what I got, I want to have a look here. Oh, that's coming together just fine. What I got was a bouquet full of alstroemeria, which I decided I hated. I hadn't really noticed before. And then there were some bits of rosemary that were kind of childishly mounted on floral picks. So it did smell nice, but I realized after the fact it really was not at all what I wanted for my wedding. But I didn't really know what I wanted, so it wasn't really the people who were putting the wedding together weren't to blame at all, because I didn't even know what I wanted well enough to tell them what to get. So that's not their fault. But lately I've been thinking, if I were gonna walk down the aisle, what would I want to carry? And honestly, I think it'd be some of these roses, but not as they are from a floral warehouse. I think I'd like them to look as they do in a garden. All right, so I am at the styling point, and mostly what I'm trying to do once I get to the bottom is keep it neat, because these roses have way more of the bottom part showing than most do. And also it looks like at this point I need to cover that a little better. So I'm gonna come around tighter at the bottom there, and then I think I'll be able to hit this with that section. And then these babies are going to be around the bottom, adding a lot of nice volume. All right, so at this point, it's not what I would call neat at the bottom, but we're going to get there. That's not bad. Right there. That can be better. I don't usually use tweezers, but boy, are they good to have around once in a while. Okay, so I think this is all right, but let's see what it looks like. Oh, she's lovely. All right, so this is an example that shows even if you don't cut the strip quite as well as you'd hoped, you still can make a perfectly fine rose. I'm just going to add a little bit of glue in there. And I wonder how long this took me. You know, you can see the time. All right. So after this dries a bit more, I might come in and sort of add a bit more glue to kind of tack some sections in. And I might also roll some sections out and shape a little bit more. But overall, these roses are so much easier than what I used to make. And this ombre paper is such a joy to work with. And you know, when I look at this real rose and when I look at this paper rose, they give me the same feeling of enchantment and love and fairy tale romance, which I think everybody deserves once in a while. And why not at a wedding or a pretend wedding, or you're just making a bouquet, or maybe you're making a bouquet for yourself. Anyway, thanks for joining me. Please like and subscribe. Have a look at my playlist so you can learn how to make this beautiful ombre paper and these lovely roses that come together so much more quickly than other roses I've ever made. And I think they're quite winsome. Thanks.